Looking at a lavish banquet scene like this might make you wonder, what did the ancient Romans eat? And Rome wasn't all endless banquets and fancy villas for elites with many servants. What about the common folk? What did they eat? Fortunately, we know quite a bit about this because Petronius, a Latin writer during the reign of Nero, wrote extensively about Roman meals. According to Petronius, wealthy Romans would enjoy three main meals. Jentaculum jentaculi. This was a meal similar to our breakfast, except that the Romans, like today's Italians, would not eat too much at this hour. This light meal would mainly include some type of wheat bread, perhaps accompanied by fresh fruit or dried dates. Prandium prandii. This was a midday meal, usually cold, sometimes involving the leftovers from the previous day. Cana canae. This was definitely the main meal of the day. For the rich, it could be a long, entertaining meal, lasting until late at night. It would have many courses, consumed in the triclinium triclinii of their wealthy house, lying on couches, often built from cement, but made comfortable with pillows and mattresses filled with feathers. Since the Romans didn't have utensils and ate with their fingers, slaves would constantly come around to wash their master's hands. This meal would also include regular wine, vinum vini, or a sweet wine made with raisins, passum passi. On the menu, you would find appetizers, gustationes gustationum, like boiled eggs, salad, or small bites of fish, often accompanied by mulsum mulsi, a wine flavored with honey. Among the vegetables, we have mentions of carrots, carota, carotae, in several colors, like purple or white, but not orange. Cabbage, brassica brassicae. Onions, caepa caepae. Kales and broccoli, all from the brassica family. Asparagus, asparagus asparagi. And beet leaves rather than roots, beta betae. Many of these items are evident in paintings at Pompeii, but for the very rich, the main attraction was meat. Unlike Greece, in ancient Rome, beef was not too common. It was often replaced by pork, caro suilla, including sausages, lamb, agnus agni, venison, dama damae, goat, capra caprae, boar, aper apri, suckling pig, poultry like chicken, pullus pulli, duck, anas anatis, and goose, anser anseris. The very elaborate meals included game such as cranes, grus gruis, pheasants, passianus passiani, doves, columba columbae, thrushes, turdus turdi, and sometimes special treats like peacocks, pavo pavonis. Seafood was also very important. Wealthy Romans would eat red mullet, mullus mulli, oysters, ostrea ostreae, and all kinds of shellfish, as well as lobster, cammarus cammari. Then we get to fruits. They had apples, malum mali, pears, pirum piri, berries, bacca baccae, figs, ficus fici, grapes, ua uae, plums, prunum pruni, pomegranate, malogranatum malogranati, together with cherries, cerasum cerasi, peaches, malum persicum, and apricots, prunum armeniacum, introduced to Rome in the 1st century BCE. Romans especially loved figs because of their flavor and their nutritional value, since figs are rich in calcium and potassium. They also had oranges, arantium arantii, and lemons, pomum citreum, although they were not common in cooking. Exotic spices like cinnamon, cinnamomum cinnamomi, pepper, piper nigrum, and nutmeg, nux muscata, were brought from India especially for those fancy meals. We are fortunate enough to read this information about Roman meals in Apicius, a collection of Roman recipes bearing the name of a Roman foodie called Marcus Gavius Apicius. Another great source, as we mentioned previously, is the Latin author Petronius, author of Satyricon. One specific part of Satyricon, called Cana Trimalchionis, describes with great precision some complicated gourmet Roman dishes, like pigs stuffed with birds. Forks and knives were replaced by a special slave who was especially trained in cutting meats into finger food. Spoons were used for soups. For most common Romans, life was a lot simpler. No fancy meats and no tasty bites for the poor. They instead survived on cheaper foods like wheat, triticum tritici, and barley, ordeum ordei, lettuce, lactuca lactucae, cabbage, brassica brassicae, cucumbers, cucumis cucumeris, onions, caepa caepae, with eggs, ovum ovi, and cheese, caseus casei, only for special occasions. Hard-boiled eggs were known in Roman times as appetizers. Fava beans, faba fabae, lentils, lenticola lenticulae, and chickpeas, cicer ciceris, in several varieties, would provide inexpensive protein. It is interesting to recall here that some famous Roman personalities had nicknames coming from vegetables. Cicero, from the Tullia gens, carried proudly the nickname of chickpea. He didn't want to abandon it when he entered politics, claiming that it was better than some other nicknames, like those of his colleagues Marcus Aemilius Scaurus, the club-footed, or Gaius Lutatius Catulus, the puppy. The famous gens Fabia, according to some, was also connected to the beans they first cultivated, while Gaius Calpurnius Piso was connected to a pea, probably because he was short. Snails, cochlea cochleae, fattened with milk, were also a common delicacy because they could be raised inexpensively. For flavor, the Romans would use garum gari, a sauce made with fermented fish, very similar to what you might find today in some Asian markets. Garum, just like wine, could be very fancy and expensive or very cheap. So everyone in Rome, starting from the 4th or 3rd centuries BCE on, could afford some type of it. Remains of factories have been excavated in almost any location close to the sea in the Roman Empire. Once the sauce was ready, variations could easily be made adding some ingredients like herbs, honey, or wine. Some places in southern Italy have reminders of this sauce in recipes using anchovies. However, there were no potatoes or tomatoes in ancient Rome, since they didn't arrive in the Old World until much later. Now that we have a better sense of how the Romans ate, let's move forward and learn more about how they lived.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe to my channel for more tutorials. Support me on Patreon so I can keep making content. And as always, feel free to email me, ProfessorDaveExplains@gmail.com.